Hey Percy. Hey Percy. Hey Kajal. We're just going to wait for a few minutes before we get started. Thanks for joining, guys. So I'm super excited to announce the series of live sessions that I will be conducting. It's called a Step to Entrepreneurship, and a lot of entrepreneurs have their own journey, right? Everyone has a journey personal to themselves, and what I would like to get to everybody watching is their story, because there's so much to learn from each other. There'll be so much for you to learn from, Aviva's journey today. So that's what I aim to do with a step to entrepreneurship. I will be hosting one every Sunday for the next 3 more Sundays after today, so for the next month. And I will be getting on people from different industries and different spheres of life, because I want to share their story with you, how different it is, what their struggles have been, and how they have really made a mark in their entire space. And the hardest step for anyone really is, as an entrepreneur, to take that first step. After that, there of course is a big road ahead. But I feel that's the first step, and that's the hardest. So through everyone's stories, through these live sessions, we will be talking about that, and hopefully at the end of this you will feel empowered to take that first step if you haven't as yet. So without any further ado, I would like to just introduce Aviva Damania before I get her on board. So Aviva is the founder of The Mind Essentials, a platform for online counseling and mental health services. She has a team of counseling, clinical and industrial psychologists who she carefully selects to bring on board to The Mind Essentials. Aviva is, of course, a psychologist, a mental health specialist. She's trained at City University of London. She's been awarded an EU scholarship and a representation award from the dean of the university. Well done, Aviva. She actually started her journey quite early in 2014 while she was studying in Mumbai University, and she started working with tons of NGOs and charities, and also ended up working with Messina Hospital, which is one of the oldest hospitals in Bombay. She has featured in multiple medias like the Indian Express, Midday, 94.3 Radio 1, Parsi Times. These are really to just name a few. There are tons more, but I'm going to get her on board in 10 seconds. Also, she has done a lot of work during this pandemic with Mumbai Police. Again, I'm not going to go into that. It's a really interesting story, and I would love Aviva to share this with you all herself. So bringing on Aviva in a second. Hi, hi Rohan, hi Shivangi, hey Aviva.
Lisa.
So good to finally have you here. We've been
Thanks.
discussing this and going round and round about this, but so glad that it's happening today.
Me too. Thank you so much for the introduction. So kind of you.
Not at all. I'm so glad you're here, and I mean, was really intrigued after the first time we spoke. You shared your entire journey with what you do, and I think I'm not going to. I think the first thing for people, what a psychologist is. And I feel like there's so much confusion between psychologists, psychiatrists, a coach. So let me leave the floor open to you.
Okay, great. So primarily a psychiatrist, which I am not, is someone who can prescribe medication. So someone who kind of does pharmacological treatment for psychological disorders. So he can prescribe medication. He can also do brain stimulation techniques such as ECT, RTMS, and other techniques like that. So a
Okay.
psychologist primarily indulges in talking therapy, and that's what psychotherapy is. So it's kind of talking about the problem, understanding what the deep cause of the problem is, like the underlying issue. So, for example, if someone has an anger issue, it may not be because of anger, it may be just pent up depression or something. It can be something in your career, some kind of marriage crisis. So it's to understand what your interpersonal needs are, which is reflecting in your behavior or in your relationships. So it kind of targets your self image, what you think of others. And what not a lot of people know is the way you treat others is kind of the relationship that you have with yourself. So kind of understand self more will help you deal with your relationships, be it with a parent or cousins or friends or even a romantic partner. So you kind of understand where it's coming from and you see a different perspective. So like I said, talking therapy, people sometimes wonder why you should go to a psychologist. Why can't you just talk to your and of course, talking to your friends or family is really, really helpful, just to give you like a different opinion. But I think that when you come to a psychologist, you're getting a completely unbiased opinion because you're an outside person. For example, if you come to me, I'm an outside person, I can't take sides, right? And I can't
Right.
somehow enable your bad behavior, so to say, or, your behavior which is not desired when
Sure.
maybe your friends would probably enable it. So that's what psychotherapy does. It also, sorry, going back to the topic of friends versus a psychotherapist, is that also, the floor is yours. The therapist is not going to talk about their own problems and you're paying for the session. So you're not going to feel guilty like you probably would when you're talking to a friend because you feel like you're burdening them with your problems. And of course, besides all of this, a psychotherapist is trained for years to be able to conduct therapy. What might seem to you like just general questions are actually deeply rooted questions where a psychologist is not only recording what you say, but where you're looking, where your hands are you fidgeting? So there's a lot of things involved in this. And yeah, so that's what, psychotherapy is.
Interesting. I think that really helped give us a clear understanding, and I hope everyone here has now really got the difference. So, Aviva, what drew you into the mental health space? Because I know that happened very early on, right?
Yeah. So, like I said, I started in 2014, but I think ever since I was a kid with my family, of course, I've been involved in a lot of charities. So, not directly helping people in the mental health way, but, doing my bits, just hanging with, kids and underprivileged people. And it just gave a sense of satisfaction. So, that's something that I still feel even today. And it just made me feel so happy that you can impart that kind of happiness on someone else. And that smile that they give you, it's just worth so much. Actually it's not even, it's priceless. So
Yeah.
I started like that, and then when I had psychology as a subject, I think in the 11th, that's when I knew that I really want to do it, because I haven't always been very inclined towards studies, and I was like, kind of happy go lucky. But then when psychology made this grand entrance into my life, I was so sure, I was certain that there's nothing else I want to do. And ever since, I've just been involved in that. And like you mentioned, I started in 2014, and I didn't even have a degree then. So I was doing everything, based on what I was reading in college. So I'd have my books and then I'd go to the orphanage where I'd do voluntary work. So it was just, trial and error. And, my personality also kind of is like that. I am a very empathetic person, and I like to help people solve their problems, try to understand what's happening. So I think it was in harmony. And I think also, through school and through college, a lot of the hobbies that in like art and yoga and all of that happened to be therapies. So I don't know if you're aware, but art therapy is, like proper therapy in hospitals. Yoga therapy similarly is a therapy that they use in hospitals. So, it kind of just met together very beautifully. And I was very surprised that my hobbies could actually, have this domino effect into my professional life. So I think that was
Right.
great for me. And yeah, so that's how I began. That's how I wanted to, kind of get into it. And once I was in Messina, then I was sure that, I mean, this is my route for sure, this thing.
I think that's really interesting because you said when you were in grade 11, you realized when you studied psychology. And honestly, I think everybody feels this very early on in age. Like even with what I'm doing now, 5 years before I got into my got into this, and it was me really fighting to get the psychology subject along with commerce, because we were never given that in school. That was never the option. So I feel like everybody.
Yeah, sorry.
So I feel like you said, it is something that's a part of you. Person, you are a very approachable person, and you start feeling it very early on.
Yeah, just to like add to what you were saying, so about getting a seat in psychology, it's so hard in India, as you probably know. If you're in the arts line, it's just so hard to get it, because there are like 20 seats in the college. Yeah. So I really had to hustle my way through that, and it was such a rocky road, because like I mentioned prior to this, I was not very study inclined. So I was just studying because I loved the subject, not to sort of get that seat. But yeah, I really worked really hard, and I had to wait for a month to actually get into the psychology department of my college. So yeah, it's been such a hustle, but I think that I was so passionate about it that I was ready to even join a month late and then hustle again for that 1 month to catch up, because I loved it so much.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Aviva. So what is it that you do to keep yourself grounded every day, to take care of your emotional well-being? Because today, the kind of state that we're in, it's been nearly 4 months. We've all been indoors, and it does take a toll on everybody.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it does. But I mean, touch wood, for me, I feel that the fact that I am having sessions with people every day is what keeps me grounded. So for example, when I'm talking to someone and I realize these grave problems, I just realize that, the tiny inconveniences in my life are so small. Not that I'm saying that anyone's problem is bigger or smaller, but this me feel. So when I'm talking to someone and they tell me about their life, I just feel like I'm being ungrateful if I complain. So I think that's what really helps me. But of course, there are days when I can't help but, complain or feel something. So in those cases, I do kind of, do yoga, or like I try and talk to a friend, or, indulge in a lot of self-care. And, I'm a very assertive person in general. So if I can't do something, I'm very open about it. I say, no, I can't do it. So I think that's what kind of anyway prevents me from reaching that point. So I think that is what keeps me grounded. But also, when I spoke about helping other people out and, how it makes me feel, besides that, it's proven that when you are compassionate towards someone else, be it, the stuff in your home or your friends, it automatically increases your self-worth, because you feel like you're worth something, you're a good person, and that automatically makes you feel much, much better. That's similar to having a dog. Everyone says that when you have a dog, you feel very good, and there's something called dog therapy. So that's how it works, right? Because you're compassionate towards the dog, you have that responsibility in you to take care of it. And also another thing that I suggest, this is not what I do very often, but sure. I think you also brought this up in one of our talks earlier, is that you have to treat yourself friend, what you would tell a friend in that situation. So this is something that I keep forgetting to adapt, when in my life. But I think this is something that everyone should try. Try and be your friend and tell yourself what you should do.
I actually do that quite often. So I just stand in the mirror, talk to myself, and I tell people, you're not crazy when you do that. When you usually look at a third person doing it, you're like, oh God, this person is talking to themselves. They're crazy. It's not that. I think it really helps.
Yeah.
But you spoke about feeling that. I think what you said right now is really nice, about feeling that compassion towards others. And this really is linked to the first thing that you said, that if you're behaving in a certain way to others, you would also feel that towards yourself. That's your relationship with yourself, which is really amazing. When you spoke about, you said you feel grateful for what you have when you also listen to other people. Have you been, or have you spoken with somebody who's in a state that, despite knowing what they are grateful for, when they look at what they're grateful for and their problems and they can't accept that, is there a lot of guilt that comes up?
Yeah, there is sometimes. Of course, there are different people. So some people do feel guilty. But in that case, I just repeat the line that I said earlier, that no problem is big or small. You can't quantify a problem. Everyone has different ways of coping. So you may have very great coping mechanisms. When your coping mechanisms are not in place, that's when you feel the pressure. So your problem could be like this tiny and you could feel this pressure, or your problem could be this big and you feel this pressure. So it's actually your response. That's what I would say. And of course, having said that, there are a lot of clients who feel guilty. There are a lot of clients who don't realize it even when you tell them. But it's all about inside building and not being too hard on yourself and not being too easy. That's my approach, of course. So that's what I think. That's what I've seen in my.
Okay, interesting. You've taken this entire time, you've completely changed it around from for yourself, right? You started Mind Essentials during the lockdown. So what has your journey been like building Mind Essentials?
Yeah. So just to give you a little background, prior to the lockdown, I mean, I'm still working at an organization as an industrial psychologist where I have counseling sessions with the employees. So of course, after the lockdown started and everything, my work was reducing a little bit in terms of office because, the lines were getting a bit blurry. So they didn't have the time to finish their sessions. And I had a lot more time, no commuting and all of that. And I had clients outside of this as well, like from my private practice. And I needed somewhere to kind of have the sessions. You can't just put it on hold. So I decided that let me just do something online. Let me get a website on. And, it was very, very sudden. It started purely me. But then once I had a lot more clients, I realized that it's much better for me to kind of, make it a bigger thing, have more counselors on board. Because a lot of my friends who I studied with, who I worked with, and they're fantastic counselors and psychologists, and they didn't have any work. I mean, some of them also do have work, but I'm just talking about the ones who didn't. That's what struck me when I was starting. And I just thought, like, what a waste of talent. We've studied so hard, and nothing's going to happen for now, so let's kind of make the most of it, and if it works, it works. And of course, touch wood, it worked very well, because right now I think everyone needs a counselor or a psychologist more than ever. And I think it's going really well. We're trying to help as many people as we can. We've kept our rates also really low because of this time, and we're looking to scale up and have more psychologists on board so that we can address everyone's problem. And I don't know if I mentioned, but the psychologists also are specialized in different things for different age groups. So whenever a client comes, they usually tell us how old they are, what they're facing. And I don't think till date we've ever said no to a client. So we have a psychologist or a counselor for every need. So I think that was a very good decision made, and I think I'm so happy that I made this decision. More so because I can also connect with like-minded people, because all the people who are on board are fantastic, and they're so good at their work. And just having a dinner with them, talking about just normal things, it just makes me feel more in touch with this profession.
Interesting. And it's really nice that you formed this whole community being in this space, because it is really, when you start off, and I'm sure you would have felt that as well, when you just start off, you're kind of confused. You don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And you very rightly said you've studied so much and you feel like it's all going to waste, and you're kind of getting pulled down or
Yeah.
demotivated.
Correct. Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this is a slow, in terms of your career path, this is something that takes a lot of time. And in order to get that credibility and get it from the Mind Essentials, I think is a big win for everybody
Yeah.
who's on board.
And
But
also,
how
I
do
feel
you,
like because if you're an individual, not a part of an organization, you don't. This is what I've seen in my personal experience. I could be wrong, but you don't get as much respect unless you're affiliated with a bigger organization. So, for example,
okay,
now with Marshals, it's not just that the counselors come, they do their sessions, and it's over. Once we kind of go forward, there's going to be a lot of supervision to ensure the quality. Even now, we have, feedback forms sent after the session. We ensure that the clients are very happy with it. And if they're not, they can counselor shift without paying anything. So yeah, there's a lot of supervision involved. So for example, if I was Aviva, just, not a part of an organization, there wouldn't be this kind of supervision where people are watching what I'm doing and, checking whether the client is happy. So there's a lot of that when you're affiliated with an organization, which is what I feel draws a lot more clients to come for, therapy to an organization.
interesting. And it's a win for both sides, right? Because the
Absolutely.
person who's giving that therapy gets feedback on what they're doing well, and where they need to improve, and of course the
Yeah.
other person as
You know,
well.
like
Um,
the psychologists that I have on board, they're so fantastic that, they're waiting for the feedback. So, once
okay.
the session is over, they're like, hey, can you send the feedback form? And, that's when I know that they are so good, not just because they want to improve, but they are confident that the client has given good feedback. And I don't think we've even received like a single about anyone yet. And I'm sure that if I had taken everyone, I'd have a much larger number, selected them so closely. You know, people I've also worked with and also new people who've reached out. So touch wood, I'm
Sure.
so happy with the team.
Very nice. So how many people do you have on board right now, Aviva, on your platform?
Sorry, you're getting a little cut.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So I was asking that how many people do you have on your platform as of now?
I'm so sorry, Ankita. I think I'm losing again.
Okay. Well, technology. Give me. Can you hear me now?
Oh, much better. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. I think technology goes on and off. So I
Yeah.
was asking, how many people do you have on your platform at the moment
In terms of clients,
in
so
terms of the
it completely
counselors
differs.
and psychology?
Okay, in terms of the counselors, so we have 15 counselors,
Wow.
psychologists, and industrial psychologists. Having said that, I do want to scale up. I'm looking for, talented people who want to be on board. So yeah, it's 15 as of now, 15 and counting, hopefully.
Wow, and that too in a period of 2 months?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, not even 2 months. It's just been a month. I mean, we just set up
Wow.
2 months ago, and then we started work a month ago. So it's going really well. Like, I'm surprised everything's happening so organically. I think word of mouth as well spreads. So we're getting a lot of clients. Clients are happy, and that's my priority. That's absolutely
Yeah.
my priority. Like, even when I'm getting the counselors and psychologists on board, the first thing I tell them is that your goal doesn't have to be to get more sessions with the client. Your goal has to be that once you're done with whatever X number of sessions, the client doesn't have to come back to you. There's a lot of self-reliance, self-dependency, and they have to be their own therapist. So it shouldn't be something that they come to you, it's fixed, and then when they're in their own life, they can't manage. So that's also something I inculcate in all of them.
I think that's a really valid point because um, there is this whole space of, like when I also asked my family, my mom and my grandmom, and I was having this conversation with them, and they said that once you start going to somebody, you may not ever stop. So your dependency is constantly
Yeah.
there. So how do you do that? You said you try to make them self-reliant. You give them that sort of, you want them to be empowered to handle their life. So what do you do? Is
Right.
there something in specific?
Yeah, so I think what I generally, when I start with, I kind of have them create a list of things that, empower them, that make them feel good. And then we don't touch that sort of list for a while. Then we deal with their problem and we keep kind of touching on it and coming back to it. So I keep reminding them that, oh, don't you remember that this is what makes you feel powerful? So we just keep slowly going back to it. And then towards like the later sessions, I'd probably ask, for example, if you'd come to me and you'd say that you have, fear of public speaking, I'd probably ask you towards the end, okay, so now imagine yourself in this situation. What are you going to do? So if you say, I'm going to call you, then I'd say, no, you're not going to call me. Think of something else. And I'd keep making you do that. Now, of course, having said that, it's not that the client will like snap his fingers and be self-sufficient. But,
Sure.
it takes a little bit of time and maybe he'll come back for a while and then, will slowly, sort of make him self-dependent. But I think that happens through the session as well, the way we kind of train them, the way we tell them. It's not about just listening. It's also about kind of putting those kind of things into them, imbibing that, no, you can do this by yourself. And, just a lot of positive affirmations, a lot of positive self-talk. Like a positive self-talk is proven scientifically now to actually make you feel better. And, people say that what you think, you become. So it's not actually just a quote. I don't want to get too technical here, but there's a theory called the self-fulfilling prophecy. So that states that everything that you have, like your internal mind, you have an ego. So whatever you truly believe, your body and your mind, and you are going to try and manifest it and make that belief system real. So in order to keep your ego up and to kind of be in check with what you're thinking, your body will do that. So if you tell yourself every day that, I'm going to go to the gym, I am going to the gym, then you will just, because you're thinking that you have to do it, to kind of validate that belief system. So
Sure.
I got a little carried away when I was
Okay.
saying that. But yeah, so that's also proven, to make someone feel much better. So I tell them, like you mentioned earlier about mirror talk, it is so helpful, and I've gotten this feedback from clients as well. So, I say that when you think that you're not worth something, stand in front of the mirror, look how far you've come, and tell yourself that you can. And if you can't, it's okay. You can fall down and then stand back up. So, things like that is what really makes them more self-sufficient. And from the start, when we always have homework tasks after each session. So each homework task has something to do with that, and your self-efficacy, your self-confidence, your self-esteem, all of that is going to make you feel more empowered, and that's going to make you more self-sufficient.
Okay, so you really dig deep in, and I think that's so important
Yeah.
because we all just know ourselves, most of us know ourselves at a very surface level, even though we've lived for X number of years in our body.
Yeah.
But we don't really know ourselves. No,
That's the reason why I think, even if you don't have any problems, I think therapy just helps you understand yourself better. So even if you're not performing, you don't want to perform to a normal, you want to perform to an optimal. So that's when you know yourself, that's when you can, perform that way. If you don't know what your potential is, you're not unlocking that system, then you're never going to know. But once you do unlock it and you know, okay, that my potential is here and I'm here, you can work and strive towards that. So that's why I tell a lot of people that you don't need to have any problems to go to therapy, And therapy need not even be like, your therapist. Even if you have a session with your friends, a heart to heart, and you talk about your potential. I'm not talking about problems, of course, that would require a therapist. But if you just talk about, what you want to achieve, what your expectations are, things like that, that'll also help you kind of realize where you are at, mentally, and what you can be.
Absolutely, and I think that's exactly what we also do in, as life coaches. We know you're here, you're emotionally taking care of yourself, right? But you want to be a better version of yourself. Now, how do you reach there? What are your goals? What do you want to look at? What do you want to be 5 years from now, 20 years from now, at the end of your life? So I feel like it's really important to meet someone, speak to them. Like you very rightly put, you don't have to have a problem.
Yeah.
Right. I think you also spoke about affirmations. And, just to add to that, what I feel is everyone listening even should have that affirmation that resonates with themselves.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us, what we do is just go on Google and type positive affirmations and copy one. And,
Yeah.
then constantly saying it and it doesn't help. Of course it doesn't, because it
Like,
needs to
yeah.
resonate to you.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, it has to be your core belief system. So if
Yeah.
I think, if I say probably that, okay, I'm a size 0, that's not going to make me that. But if I truly believe that, okay, I am fit athletically, even though I may not look aesthetically fit, that is still something believable. Because if you say something without believing it, it's not going to happen. But interestingly enough, if you say something and even if you don't believe it, if you keep repeating that same habitual thing, it'll eventually become a belief system, which you can then, use as an affirmation. So, there's so
Yeah.
much to it scientifically. I'm a very like scientific person in my approach. And, before I studied psychology, I remember telling my mom that what is all this, positive affirmations, as if that's going to do anything. But, when I studied it and realized that there is scientific backing, it is to do with the brain, then I
Yeah.
realized that there is power in it, so I'm not going to shun anything down without
Yeah.
reading about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think also what helps with affirmations is when you just visualize it because you know where you
Absolutely.
want to be.
Yeah.
So do you have a affirmation that you use on a daily basis?
To be honest, Ankita, I don't even have the time to have
Okay.
affirmations anymore. But when I was younger, I did. So it wasn't per se like an affirmation, but every time I felt demotivated, I probably remember. So when I was doing internships, I mean, at hospitals or observerships, I'd remember how a client would kind of thank the counselor, or if I was talking to the client, how the client would be happy after the session, saying that, oh, you really helped me. And for me, that was the affirmation in my mind that I am a good psychologist. I can help people and I am making a difference in their lives. So that kind of helped
Right.
me to get up every day, go to college, study hard. So that was it. But I think the affirmations for me is just positive feedback from other people, which I keep building on.
Sure. And having that bank in your mind if,
Yeah.
whenever you need that little push.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Um, So, Aviva, what I'm sure like right now there is a lot that your team also would be going through. So, you said in the beginning that there is some sort of self-care you indulge in. When you can't, you just say, okay, I need the day off or I need some time off. What is it that do you do sessions with your team, or do you guys have chats to help each other out in this time?
So I keep everything very flexible, Ankita. I'll allow them to do what they want. So even in terms of their timings, I tell them that, whenever you're free, you tell me, and then we'll schedule a session. So for me,
Okay.
I feel that they're only going to be happy and they're going to want to work here if it's going to benefit them. And only will I be at benefit if they are at benefit. So I allow that
Yeah.
flexibility, first of all. They're all told from the start that they can either have a session with me whenever they want, or they can have a session with anyone else in the team. And of course, we have a confidentiality policy and all of that, so
Sure.
it's completely confidential. And I've told them that if there's something that what you want to say to about me to another counselor, and if they tell me that counselor will be in trouble, you won't. So it's all
Yeah.
very open. I allow them to like say what they want, and it's not just the counselors, but I mean even the social media team and everyone. That, of course, if we are a mental health organization, we want our people to be the happiest. So
Absolutely.
yes, that's what I do. And I think everyone, we don't really have chats as such on the group because none of us have actually met. Of course, we've met one on one, but everyone
Sure.
hasn't met yet, so that unity
Sure.
hasn't really come in. But I'm sure that once everything resumes and everything, it'll be fine. But they of course have chats with me one on one, and we're doing a lot of work. Like besides this, we're trying to tie up with a lot of organizations. We already have a couple of partnerships on the way, so they're always busy
Wow.
with that. And they're just doing such a great job. It's so easy to handle them because I think we're also like-minded, and I like them as human beings as well, because that's very important to me, that I can trust them with all of this, because like my clients are my diamonds. I really treasure all of them and cherish them. I don't want anything to go wrong. So I ensure that the person, the entire team has that, the need, that want to help, to genuinely help. And only
Yeah.
when they pass that thing for me, only then they are on board. So handling it becomes much easier. Sorry, I'm diverting again. But
Oh
yeah,
no, go ahead.
we have one-on-one conversations a lot. And of course, it's like an open door thing. Everyone comes, talks when they want. They can have sessions. I don't even know if they're having sessions among themselves. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
because I said, don't tell me, I don't want to know. I just want you to be happy and
Absolutely.
content. And that's all. So I think they're all good. Yeah, it's going really well.
I think that's a really nice way to look at it and give them their privacy, give them that sort of flexibility. Really important, especially now.
Yeah.
There's something that you said that I want to share with everybody here. Pull it out and share it in specific. Um, so, in a lot of my leadership talks, also, I talk about how your clients are your most important things, and you use that word. You said my clients are my diamonds. So I just want to put it out there for
Yeah.
anybody who's planning to start anything, take a step towards entrepreneurship, or is already doing something on their own. Remember that you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it
Yeah.
for your clientele. So I think if your clients are happy, you will be happy.
Absolutely.
um, and of course, your clients have to be happy, but your team needs to be, on top
Of
and
course. Yeah.
very well, emotionally taken care of. And especially
Absolutely.
at
Like
this
I
time, they
feel
need that
like
support.
the employees, the consultants, everyone in the organization is the organization, is what the organization is made of. And
Right.
having said that, I've told all of them that this is not my platform. This is your platform, because they're sharing it with me. They have an equal role that I play. I'm just doing a little bit more of the back end work, but it's their platform as well. So I just want that kind of style of leadership to be a little bit more prominent. It's so important during these times, especially people are going through so much. So that
Right.
little bit of empathy and compassion is so important, not just because it's a mental health organization, but just overall. That's what I truly believe.
Absolutely.
And I've
Absolutely.
personally had the privilege of working under such great leaders, and that's actually what's inspired me to be this way. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think you have a very clear vision. I think since our first conversation, I saw this. You have a very clear vision for the Mind Ascensions, and you've conveyed that very well to your team. So a lot of times when we start something and we have our team, they are employees, and that's about it. right?
Yeah.
And we forget to tell them why we're doing this. So I think you very well conveyed that, which is why it's grown so much in the last month, and I'm definitely sure it's just going to keep growing.
I will.
Thanks
Thank
to your attitude and that's. So Aviva, what are the new projects that you're currently working on? You said something about you were doing something for the Dharavi community, right?
you.
So
Yeah.
tell
So
us.
yeah, let me tell you about that. So just on Monday, we had a food donation drive. So the charity that I spoke about earlier, that I was doing counseling for, I was doing counseling as well as management of the school. It's a school that was set up like in the heart of Dharavi, with
Okay.
about I'm not sure how many children are there. There are a couple of standards. So I started doing work there in 2014, and of course I keep going back to my roots. See, my ultimate aim is also to do a charity. I'll come to that later. But yeah, so I'm always doing work there, whether it's having art workshops or health camps. I did another medical camp for them because they obviously live in really bad conditions, and I wanted them to kind of benefit directly. So you can keep
Sure.
doing art. Like I did one art thing, but it wasn't so beneficial. And then I did a camp, a medical camp, where they were given specs and they were given medication. So that was directly helping them, right? So
Okay.
everything else is just a novelty. So now, when the pandemic started, I thought this is the perfect opportunity for me to do a food distribution there. Of course, having said that, I did this solely by myself. There was no funding, there was none of that. So I could not obviously cater to a larger crowd. So I just identified 100 of these families of the students who study in that school. So the school is called the Banyan Tree English School. So I reached out to the school again and I told them that you need to help me with this, obviously, because I don't have access to that database. And I said to find out who needs it the most, and their hand to
Sure.
mouth, daily earnings. So I asked them to kind of make a list of that, and then they identified 100 of these families. And yeah, and then on Monday I went there. I obviously kept it open to the team as well, but I did not expect anyone to come because of the situation. But I
Sure.
personally wanted to go because I didn't think that it would make an impact for me, personally, if I sent someone to go and distribute it. So I personally went there and I was distributing it, and it again, it's so grounding. It just brought me back to earth. So even the few times when I grumbled at home, I was just thinking, what am I doing? There are people here who don't have food.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was amazing. And I put that up obviously on my story and all of that, and I got such a good response. All of my friends were like, why didn't you tell us? We wanted to donate, we wanted to come. So now, in terms of this, I'm planning to start a smaller sort of CSR under the Mind Essentials, so that we can put a little bit of our profit into that, because that's always something that I want to, be a part of. So I'm trying to create that, and not only with this school, where we'll tie up with other charities where we can, help, the blind, or anything like that. So that's
Sure.
what's going to be happening on that front, and I'm hoping to get a couple of volunteers in to help create that. One of my closest friends, I'm hoping, if you're watching this, I'm hoping she'll lead the team. So
Okay.
yeah, that's what's happening on that front, and I'm planning to do a lot of these events. It really makes me feel good personally, and I'm sure it benefits them a lot.
That's amazing. And I think we all really come to the CSR bit after, creating that specific, but it's amazing to see that you've already, you're actually
Yeah.
focusing on that.
Because I
Um,
started my work there, right, Ankita? Like that's what got me into this. That's my
yeah,
passion. More than the psychology bit of it, I want to help the people who don't have the means to get help. That, of
yeah,
course, at this point in my life, I can't leave everything and do that. But that's probably where I want to be in
absolutely.
years.
But Aviva, that's really, really nice because everyone says we'll do it later, right? Once we have enough to be able to donate, we'll do it then.
Yeah.
But it's what really, I mean, it's really nice to see that you've already taken that step 1 month into starting something of your own.
Yeah.
So really kudos to you there.
Thank you.
So, Aviva, you also are doing, during this pandemic, you've been doing a lot of work for Mumbai Police. And I did mention that in your introduction, but I wanted you to lead that and share with everybody what you're doing. And if, just before I let you answer that, if anybody has any questions for Aviva, please just start dropping them in the comment box now. Aviva, over to you.
Yeah. So I started actually, Ankita, because I got an invitation from the DCP And he told me that, why don't you come and, do a few sessions with the police who were affected with the coronavirus. And there were so many at the time when I started, it was at its peak. And I said, okay, yeah, of course, this is what I like to do. I want to do it and I'll come. And then he's changed his mind and he said, okay, no, it's really dangerous. I don't want you to get out. This was during the peak, when everything was closed. So I started the sessions over the phone. And then I was talking to a lot of the people every day. They'd send me a new number and I'd have sessions with them. And of course, it's very easy to just think about them. Or even if you think you're empathizing, you don't really know their pain. You cannot empathize until you hear what they have to say, So, there were stories like they were doing their work. They didn't have a choice. It's not that they were told that, hey, if you want, you can work from home. If you want, you can come on duty. Like, you have to. And then to get affected, and then their family is affected, and then because of them, someone in their family passes away, their kids get it, and it's just so heartbreaking. And when I heard all of that, again, it's another anchor just pulling me down. So yeah, it started like that. It started with the phone call sessions. It started with Mumbai Police. And then I went on to training the female constables, female police officers in counseling. So of course, there are so many police officers who were affected with the virus. And of course, I can't counsel all of them because I was also working at the time. So I couldn't do that. So I said, okay, let me train them at least so they can have, the basic counseling skills. So then I did a few workshops with them, taught them about empathy, about, just the basic skills that you need. And I asked them, what are the kind of questions that baffle you? What is it that confuses you? For example, if you're on the phone with a client, with a person who's affected, a police who's affected, what confuses you? What do you get stuck at? What can't you answer correctly? So then they told me, what were the issues that they were facing when they were talking to them. And I told them and helped them understand what they should kind of say. And of course, after that, I know that, I can't solve all their queries in one go because there are going to be some in the future. So we created a WhatsApp group where I kind of supervise. So I say, whenever you have an issue, you can ask me, of course, and I'm on the group and I'll reply immediately. Even if you're on the phone, you just pick up, ask me a question and I'll respond. But I also made it a point that I told them that once you're done with your sessions for the day, once you're done, sort of talking to the police, all of y'all sit together and discuss. Because what you may have, a technique that you used could be helpful to someone else. So just to give you a little background, they were just regular police officers who were just volunteering to help out the other police. Just to kind of give them that little, motivation, like, pep talk kind of, to ensure that they are feeling not stressed out about their families and things like that. So they were actually doing such a great job, in spite of not having any background in this. And I think then just me talking to them and telling them how I would deal with the situation made it much better for them. And I think after this, I was approached to also do the same for Thane Police. This, I didn't have a session with them, but I just had the phone call sessions, which are still going on. And both are going on, Mumbai and Thane. But again, yeah, it's really sad because they're just doing their duty, and I don't think they get enough credit for the work that they do. Mostly there's just hate on, the police officers, which, I mean, I'm sure people have their reasons or whatever, but I just think that you need to be more grateful for people who are kind of protecting you and trying to do their best. And, it's really sad, especially the part that they're scared about how their families are going to manage, and the families, passing away or falling sick. It's so heartbreaking. But yeah, I think I'm hoping that at least the sessions with them is giving me some compensation that I have done my bit, because they're definitely, for me, they're our heroes and they're taking care of all of us during this time. So I have done my, 2 pice bit of, compensation for that.
Absolutely, and that is very heartbreaking to hear the situation they are in, and that we constantly, like you very rightly mentioned, people are constantly hating on them. Is there some advice that you'd want to give everybody listening, something that they should keep in mind when they want to say post a hate message about them on social media?
Yeah. So I just think that you shouldn't generalize, in a way. If you feel like one person has done something wrong, just to take the example of a police officer, if you see one thing going wrong, I don't think you should label it, because it's just not right for the rest of the people who are doing their job. And I frankly don't think that an entire system, be it police or be it, okay, I'm not going to take names, but you know what I mean? Like, one whole system cannot be bad. Everyone in a particular system cannot be bad. So definitely, I would say there's no need to generalize. I'm not saying that you should not speak up for what you believe. I definitely believe that. but it should not be at the cost of someone else, especially not during this time. I also realized that during this lockdown, people are much more vocal about smaller issues, which is also fine, but it shouldn't be hurting anyone else's sentiment, because we never really know the whole picture. Sitting with your phone in your hand, you don't know what's actually going on. So
Right.
yeah, you should just be a lot more empathetic towards people that are taking care of you, and remember that you never know the whole picture unless you're physically present there. So just be wary of that. And of course, if you still want to voice your opinion, I think that that's fine as well. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it's just different people have different sort of motives.
Right. So we should really understand what the other person is going through. Empathy extremely important, like you very rightly mentioned and clearly said, empathize. I think that's something that we forget. It's kind of a word that has been floating around these days, right? Since the lockdown, I feel everybody's talking that, but no one really knows what it is. So I feel for
It's a very
everyone listening.
sophisticated emotion to even sort of build on. It's not something that can happen. It's not, just thinking. It's kind of feeling the way a person would feel.
Absolutely. And I think every one of us has that element of empathy. We all have the power to be empathetic. It's really you know, how we make use of it and how much we're experiencing it on a daily life, right? Because empathy only comes with that experience, constantly being empathetic or being in a situation where people are also empathetic. So
Yeah,
everybody has the power. It's just that you need to kind of work it, make
build
it a
on it.
habit.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. I think somebody's asking us to define empathy.
I think, first of all, it's very important to know the difference between empathy and sympathy. So we'll come to that. So empathy is basically when you can feel for someone else like you're in their position. So, for example, if if I'm talking to a client and the client is telling me about their problem, so empathy is when I can feel that problem and feel the pain that that person is feeling from that problem. And sympathy is when you feel sorry for the person, which is completely different, of course. So when you can feel the pain, you're able to, understand and articulate, and you can feel how that person's feeling, so you can react appropriately. And
Right.
sympathy is, I think it's more sort of, feeling sorry. So I don't particularly think sympathy is, I don't know why I'm talking about sympathy, but it's
Yeah.
important to know the difference. So empathy is basically, feeling someone else's thing, putting yourself in someone else's shoes and being able to feel what they feel. That's what empathy
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, and I think it comes with a big point of action, right? So with sympathy, you're not really there for the person, whereas when you're empathizing, you're there, like what you've been doing constantly. You're
Yeah.
always empathizing day in and day out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, Aviva, thanks for that. I think before we end today's chat, it was lovely having you here. But before we end, can I request you to share any advice that you would want to give everybody listening to take that first step towards a larger goal in their life or towards entrepreneurship?
So I think, see, for me, my journey was very different, because I didn't start with this. But then once I decided that I wanted to scale up, I didn't think twice. So I think that of course you need to definitely make a calculated risk. But if it's something that you're very passionate about, I would say just go for it. So if it's something that you're not so passionate about, of course, take your time to, make your whole plan. But when you have that fire and that thing to, do it, then just go ahead and jump into it, and, go all out. So that's what I would suggest. I would suggest not to be, scared of the competition, not to be scared of, not making it, because you have to make it personally. Even if you do everything in your, like, to achieving your goal and you don't achieve it, you still learned like 1,000 things in that process. So you're never really a failure. And if you are a failure, if you do fail at something, that's just the first step to success. That's how you're gonna make it in the future. I don't think anyone has made it without failing. So I think that even if you do fail, it's fine. So just have that courage, have that faith that you're going to do it, and make that leap. That's what I would suggest.
Thanks, Aviva. I think that is very interesting and important, right? Just go with your gut. What are you feeling? Um, Aviva, can I ask you one last question that we've got in our chat box? So, Pebbles has asked us, do you have any tips on giving back when you don't make a lot of money in the first place? I have a lot of friends who want to help but don't necessarily have the monetary means.
I'm so
Pebbles, that's a
this
great
question.
question.
Yeah,
And
I'm really happy
Aviva,
with the question. Yeah. So of course, when you give back, money is not the only thing. Of course, it is something that is important. But like I said, when I started off my career, I didn't give money, right? Like I didn't say, okay, I'm going to buy this for these many people. I was there day in and day out talking to those children. I was saying, hey, come, let's play something. Let me teach you all something. When I was doing yoga, I said, let me teach you yoga. So it's just about being present. I think monetary comes much later. And if you have the money for it, then great, you can do it. If you have surplus money, that you can do that. But it's not something that they would also value. It's how you make a person feel at the end of it, not, what you give them. As much as anyone might think that, if you give someone something, they take it. But that superficial stuff will only last while that thing is physically present. So for example, now when I gave them the food bags, okay, it'll last them for 1 month. They'll remember that, okay, the Mind Essentials Aviva has given us this, bag of food. But in 1 month, they're not going to remember because it's a tangible asset. It's going to be gone. But the way you make a person feel when you go, you physically tell them that, hey, no, this is how you do this yoga pose, not like this. Come, I'll make you, I'll teach you. When you show them that they are important, that they are worthy of being loved, that's what they will take back and that's what they will remember. And this is from my personal experience. The students who were at the orphanage where I did my volunteer work, they, of course, the orphanage only has students till about, I think, the second standard. So they go out and they shift to another school and they come back and they remember me. Even years later, they
um,
come to, for their farewell graduation parties or whatever it is. And they ask, oh, where's Aviva Didi? Kahan hai? They remember me
how
so
sweet.
fondly, and those are the kids who I didn't give any monetary benefits to. I was only there with them as a human being, taking care of them, playing with them. So yeah, that's all. I think there's so much to give, there's so much. If you have a skill, build on that. Teach some kids that go to, the School of Blind or anywhere else. There are so many charities. Your skills, or even if you just go and talk to them, even if for example, if you're starting a career in mental health, if you're not sure about taking up a subject like psychology, you can go there and talk to them, or just actively listening to their problems. You'll see how that leaves an impact on them. But yeah, I'm so happy with this question, and I hope everyone heard this because it's so important to give back, in an emotional way where you actually touch their soul rather than, just monetary.
Absolutely. And Aviva, just to add a little thing to what you said, you said that everybody has something to give, and charity begins at home. We've been learning this since day
Yeah.
one. And I just want to say that during COVID, we need to start empathizing with our family first,
Yeah.
and then we'll be able to give back to others, whether, like you mentioned, go to a charity, go to an NGO, play with little kids, and that's all that really matters. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure having you here, and I think
Likewise.
everyone has really taken a lot from you. And I'm sure. Is there any way to reach out to you in case someone has any questions? What would be the best way?
I think they can just reach out. Anyone who has questions can reach out on Instagram direct. The username is at the Mind Essentials. So you can reach out there, and I'm the only one who handles the Instagram. I've made it very clear that I don't want any team or any social media person handling it. So it's going to be me, handling it, talking to you guys. So any questions, everything's going to be confidential. So please feel free to reach out with any questions, comments. If you think something that I said was incorrect, that's as cool as well. We can talk about that. So feel free to do that.
Thank you, Aviva, and thank you everybody for watching. Madhu, this definitely will be saved on IGTV if I don't make a blunder while saving it right now. But thank you so much, Aviva.
Thank you, Conchita.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad that we could do this.
Likewise.
See you.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, Aviva. So thank you everybody for watching, and we're going to do this whole series of a step to entrepreneurship. Today was Aviva Damania, and I have 3 more surprises for you in the coming Sundays, which will be revealed very soon. So keep watching, tune in every Sunday from 5 to 5:45 p.m. I promise there will be a lot for you to learn and take back. And thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great week ahead.